All right, so I finally managed to pry myself away from work, yard work, moving into the new house, and of course playing the hell out of Arc Raiders, the game which is highly addictive, by the way. If you haven't played it yet, it is fantastic. And I've been seeing a lot of talk about Ubisoft. It's, a studio, a company, a publisher that I haven't thought about for a very long time now. And there's so much to go off of. I'm just going to do a quick recap of all the things Ubisoft has done that it's gotten us to this point. Of course, going back to the nearly $850 million that was wasted on Skull and Bones, the merger, the acquisition of course, 25% of Ubisoft by Tencent just this last year alone, Star Wars Outlaws becoming an abysmal flop, a massive financial drain for Ubisoft, a game that was just never gonna land. There was no audience for it. It didn't find the target audience, and it just failed miserably as a Star Wars game and as a game on its own. Of course, we had the situation with Assassin's Creed Shadows, whether or not you think the game was a fantastic success or an abysmal failure. The reality is the game did not do well. It did not do well enough to meet their expectations, and of course it caused them to then panic cancel an ensuing game that was supposed to be set in the Civil War period. And boy, I just can only imagine how Ubisoft would have handled that, because let's be honest, they have done a miserable job when tiptoeing around very sensitive issues of culture and race and all sorts of respect to history and all that. So they were probably smart to cancel this one. Then, of course, we also have the Ubisoft massive, voluntary buyouts, basically saying, hey, we can't afford to keep all you guys, so here's a buyout if you want to jump ship now. And of course, we then had them a few days ago postponing their quarterly financial report. This is kind of like all the writing on the wall, guys. All these things, one after the other, which has led us to this point where a couple of days ago, there is a lot of hype and speculation that there will be an acquisition of Ubisoft by another party. Now, we've seen a lot of these big companies get consumed by other, entities. Of course, the EA Activision one, that was a huge acquisition by, Saudi Arabia. And it had a lot of people worried. A lot of people were freaking out going, oh my God, we're not going to be able to have our gay characters in video games because of Saudi Arabia, right? And so this guy here, Omar Alamoudi, was basically just kind of pondering on social media. He has since come out and said, no, this was just me pondering out loud. This is not a confirmation of a buyout. But what he said was, imagine, within one generation, all the world's largest third-party companies have been acquired. Only TikTok remains as a massive third-party company that's still independent, and now it's become the largest in the world. If someone acquires it, then Japanese companies will become the world's largest third-party companies. And again, he came back out and said, I wasn't saying that I have information, but it's just an interesting thing to think about. Well, that brings us to today. This article from Insider Gaming that says Ubisoft says people are playing fewer games, which makes new games struggle to stand out. I'm going to be honest. There's a couple pieces in this article that I can understand the point that they're trying to make and where they're coming from, but at the same time, this feels like massive cope. This feels like Ubisoft's in denial for the reasons that have led to where they are. They've done this to themselves, and I do not think that anybody at that company truly understands how they've gotten to this point, because it just seems like they're coping over and over and over again, right? So the article says, in a recent filing with Companies House, Ubisoft's United Kingdom-based arm wrote a lengthy breakdown about the future developments of the firm. This somewhat morbid telling of the tale of gaming suggested that a paradigm shift is occurring, one that's skewing the future of new single games in the wake of subscriptions and live service titles. Wasting no time, Ubisoft's representatives directly said that consumers are playing fewer games. That's a load of crap, but we'll continue. And the ones that they do play, they're playing for longer, which means that new single releases are struggling to compete and achieve the sales they may have once had. There's a fair point to be had there. There's a little bit of nuance, though, and I think that they just completely miss it entirely. It says, in the report filed in the United Kingdom on November 13th, the dull and meager outlook on the games industry is published for all to see. Ubisoft is not happy with how trends are unraveling. Quote, the traditional full game model of selling a single 50 to 60 pound game to a consumer as a one-time purchase continues to become less ubiquitous, with multi-game subscription services, long-running games as a service titles, free-to-play games, and cloud streaming offerings, all providing new and attractive ways for consumers to access gaming content. Now, full stop here. Yes, free-to-play games with microtransactions makes up like half the revenue for the games industry, so clearly that's something consumers apparently enjoy. However, this does not negate the fact that there are massive amounts of very successful single-player or multiplayer titles that people have purchased, and we'll get into that in a second. It goes on to say consumers are playing fewer games, playing them for longer, and as a result, outside of a few notable exceptions, many new games are struggling to stand out and achieve the sales they may have once had, while the market is more volatile and the potential for any specific title less predictable as a result. Now, I'm going to pause right here, and I want to show you something. What he's saying is true in a sense that people are definitely going to be more discerning with how they spend their money. There's less money to go around. We're all dealing with higher rent, inflation, cost of living. All these things have gotten out of control. So people are definitely going to be a little more discretionary with how they spend their extra money. But if you just look at the last couple of years of gaming, a game like Escape from Duckov, okay, not a AAA game, not a game everyone heard of, but it's like a $20 indie game. Fine. 300,000 concurrent peak players just 22 days ago. So clearly a game people were willing to spend their money on. Another indie title that was like a $20 game. Schedule 1. All-time peak, almost 500,000 players. Go back further. Baldur's Gate 3, I believe was a full-price game, $60 game. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong about that. 2.5 years ago almost, peaked at almost 1 million players at one time. This was a single-player RPG. Then you've got Monster Hunter Wilds from this year, more of that full-price live service type game, multiplayer. Now, horrible reviews, don't get me wrong. The ratings for this game make the game look like garbage. I can't imagine anybody's even playing this game anymore, and to be sure, 11,000 people left playing it on Steam right now, not very good. But it peaked at almost 1.4 million players 8 months ago, and it was not a free-to-play game. Arc Raiders just hit an all-time peak yesterday, and this was a $40 game deluxe edition for $60. Almost 500,000 players at its peak just on Steam yesterday. Okay, not a free-to-play game. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, one of the Game of the Year contenders for this year, 9 months ago. 250,000 players at its peak. Again, not a free-to-play game, not a multiplayer live service game. Same with Expedition 33, a game that was also on Game Pass and still peaked at 145,000 players on Steam 6 months ago. So to say that it's just that people are moving on from playing, full price titles, that they're all playing free to play games, that it's just the situation that you can't sell a regular price, full price game anymore, I think it's crap. I do believe I understand what he's trying to say, and there's nuance there to be had, obviously. But to lay all of Ubisoft's woes on the games industry as a whole and to say, well, this is just a problem for everybody because nobody's buying games anymore and they're playing the games they have longer and everyone's playing free-to-play games and nobody wants to buy new games. I think that's crap. I think it's a load of crap. I think it is completely them being coping and seething and in denial about how they have gotten into the situation that they are currently in. And yes, I understand some of the games that I showed as examples are live service, like Arc Raiders, like Monster Hunter Wilds, games that are going to have, content coming down the road, but not every single one of those games that I showcased is. And those are still games that people were willing to spend the money on. So I'm very fascinating to see what happens in the next couple of days. Obviously, we don't know yet what the stock situation is for Ubisoft. They asked for a temporary pause. That's why all these speculations have been coming out about whether or not they're going to get purchased by another party. But let me know in the comments down below what you think of what he says in this article. Do you think that there's actually more truth to this than what I'm looking at? Or do you think it's a load of crap like we've expected from Ubisoft time after time? So let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. All right, and if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching the video. Thank you for being here. I do have 2 channels, Minimal Effort Podcast, as well as my gaming channel. I do have a Twitch and Kick for my gaming channel. We do live streams over there occasionally, maybe once a week. And then if you are in the market for a new PC, make sure to check out Meta PCs. Click the link I have down below. Use code TBO at checkout for a special discount. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.